Order this meeting of the Warren County School Board for Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. The first item on the agenda is to accept or modify the agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
All those in favor, aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Community participation. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Community participation is a time intended for the public to give input on relevant school issues and not intended to be a question and answer period, as this may be the first time the board has heard this information. Please do not expect individual responses or any comment by the board at this time, but be assured that the concerns will be reviewed. Please print your name on the sheet at the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The reason that I came out tonight was related to some Facebook posts I've seen, followed by a news article regarding the signs that the children made at the Skyline High School. When I saw them, I kind of winced a little bit because they were kind of bad, but I was instantly reminded of my time at Furman University in South Carolina, and whenever a tackle was made, how we would all proudly scream F you and stick up our middle fingers. So not a moment I could be proud of, but it's something silly kids do. What shocked me was the immediate rebuke of the school and the public statements that were made so promptly after such an embarrassing incident happens. On May 10th of last school year, there was an incident by my account is far more pressing than this issue, where our children at Skyline Middle School and other schools were called nigger to their face, where graffiti was written on the walls that said white power, black people are gay, nigger was written repeatedly. Children were sang a song called Alabama Nigger to their face, and some were even threatened to be shot. And I didn't see a public statement from the school. It wasn't handled with the same fervence as this is. And by my account, it is a far more pressing issue. There were some children addressed, but not the majority of the student body, which should have been addressed at the time. I was told it was SOL time and that it would get in the way of the SOLs, which I felt like it was a 5-alarm fire that should be addressed immediately. And I was told that there would be some kind of diversity training that would be implemented by the beginning of the school year this year, none of which has happened. And there's a sub-community of the community that you were elected to represent that are still waiting for answers and are still waiting to hear from you all. Institutional racism is a big problem in the state of Virginia. Black children are 3 times more likely to be suspended or expelled from schools than their white counterparts for the same infractions. They constantly are made to feel less than, and I feel like this particular instance is a shining example of such. And so I wanted to remind the school board, while I realize this is a very pressing issue and needs your attention, there is one that a sub-community of the community that you're representing has been waiting for answers for 5 months now. And so it's my hope that these things will be addressed immediately and that our children that are in our community, your community, will know that they're not less than and that they're just as important as the other children in their school. And when something like this happens to them, it will be addressed and there will be changes made because they deserve it. And we need to check our institutional racism here in the Warren County Public Schools because it's very real. 2 weeks after that happened, My daughter was involved in something where a white student threatened her, got in her face, did a whole lot of stuff to her. She was offered time out in the chances room, which is fine with me because kids make mistakes. The next day, the girl kept messing with my daughter, and my daughter screamed back. She was threatened to be suspended for the rest of the school year. I urged the school to tell me why the response was different. She did the exact same thing that was done to her the day before, and they could give me no real good answer for it. So it's a huge problem, and while I understand this bad, tasteless joke that these children made is pretty unnerving, you should really be unnerved about what has been going on continuously that's gone unaddressed. And that's all I have to say, and I want to thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you. First, I'd heard of all of that, so I'm sure we'll get more information later. Anyone else who would like to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Kelsey Moore. I'm a senior at Skyline High School. With everything that has happened, one thing that hasn't been touched on enough is our administration at Skyline. Throughout this experience, they've received a lot of negative feedback that they don't deserve. They do incredible things every day just for some kids they barely know to achieve great things throughout life. Our administration has taken a beating due to the mistakes of teenagers. Nothing that was done should reflect anyone's opinions on them. They should still be well-respected individuals. Every day, they put all of our best interests first, and that should speak volumes for their character. Nothing that has been done by me or my peers should be held against them, nor should your point of view of them be changed. They are a group of individuals I will truly respect for the rest of my life. Them standing up for us and still being here just proves how much they care about their students. We as students take full responsibility for our actions. Nothing should be put on them. We're old enough to know better and learn from our mistakes. They're here to help us improve. They're not here to hold our hands. They're here to help us move on from our mistakes, and they've done nothing short of that in my years of Skyline. And I want to formally apologize to everyone here and to my administration at Skyline for making them look bad for a joke that should have never been made. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Okay. So, hello. Dear Warren County School Board, the Hawk Flock would like to apologize for our wrongdoings at the tailgate pertaining to the Skyline versus Strasburg game on Friday. Our actions were dishonorable towards our school, town, and the students in it as a whole. Our actions do not resemble our characters. We are not asking for pity, but rather for forgiveness, and for you, the school board, to understand that we are aware of our mistakes and that no one in the photo will make this type of mistake again. We would also like to express our apologies for the provocative posters. We completely realize how immature it was to make the posters, and we regret it immensely. We made a mistake that will not happen again. First and foremost, we'd like to emphasize that no one in the photo believes sexual assault is a joke. We take it very seriously and are ashamed of how people in both towns perceived it as that. We are mindful that sexual assault is not something that should be belittled nor joked about, but rather an issue that needs to be made aware of. We regret making that poster wholeheartedly. What we wrote was absolutely insensitive of us, and it shouldn't have been made. None of us feel even remotely proud of making the poster or even taking a photo with it. The disrespect that was made with the posters was completely offensive. We had poor judgment and are aware of our poor choices of words, but our intentions were never to hurt anyone nor belittle others. Our intent with the poster was not to depict our school as bad, but rather show support. We were there to show our school spirit because we love our school and not because we hate another school. Furthermore, we'd like to stress that Dr. Smith and Mrs. Smith were completely unaware the afternoon of Friday, September 28th, of the provocative posters being made at the tailgate. Our actions were simply our own actions. Additionally, after arriving to the stands of Strasburg High, Dr. Smith mandated us to show him the posters that were present at the time of Strasburg. Please note that the provocative posters were thrown away prior arriving to the game. We would also like to take a moment to point out how much of an improvement that has been made at Skyline with Dr. Smith being principal. The school setting has improved increasingly. He's absolutely committed to ensuring that Skyline stays a positive environment, and if he had known that the provocative posters were being made, he would have shut it down immediately. Dr. Smith has also drastically improved the attendance of students at Skyline, has shut down fights straight away, boosted protection outside of school, and lessened drug problems with the drug dogs being around. We'd also like to mention Mr. Lee, who has taken some heat from our mistake. He is additionally an extraordinary administrator who cares for the well-being of all the students at Skyline. Our administration is deeply respected in our community, and we wish for that not to change due to a mistake being made on our part. This should not be held against either of them. They had absolutely no part in what we did on our behalf. Both of them, as well as the other administrators, work incredibly hard to ensure all students exceed. For the past 4 years, Dr. Smith and Mr. Lee have both made our school a more sufficient environment to learn academically. Without the duo, Skyline would not be the same. Lastly, we would like to formally apologize our regret for painting our community and school as a bad place. We sincerely apologize for making a mistake that caused our administrators and higher-ranking school board members to be put in a bad position, and for embarrassing the school as a whole. Just like all other students, we all make mistakes, and we learn to grow from them. Our mistakes do not define us, but as students and members of the community, we feel embarrassed that we have been distinguished as lowlifes. We accept the consequences that have been given to us at no expense and have unquestionably learned our lesson about posting inappropriate photos on social media. We are all conscious of social media and the harmful grips it has on every person who uses it, and must realize that we must think before we post whatever we'd like to. Again, we are deeply sorry for disappointing our school, parents, and community, and we hope for your forgiveness. Thank you for allowing us to voice our thoughts on this matter. Sincerely, the Hawk Flag.
Thank you.
I would like to offer a closing statement on behalf of us as a group. Although we have already stated that we are regretful of our actions, we remain aware that no apology will completely nullify and eradicate the feelings and emotions associated with this situation. However, we still offer our apology for not only these actions, but the stress we have created for all employees of Warren County Public Schools. We did not know what our ignorance would bring, yet we very quickly discovered this through the backlash in the community. This backlash was warranted, for the signs in the picture were disrespectful, we misrepresented our school and community, and most unfortunately, we referenced an extremely sensitive past traumatic event. Through all this, we have learned several important life lessons. One, we now know what the power of social media is truly capable of. Two, we know that before making jokes, we really need to consider what our words can do. And finally, three, we now know that we must give consideration to the consequences of every decision we make while progressing into our adulthood. All in all, we are 100% culpable, take full responsibility for our actions, and offer our sincerest apologies to all. Thank you.
Thank you. And your name was?
Tyler Hugo.
Tyler.
Hello. I have one more thing to say about this. My name is Elena Smith, as most of you already know. I understand that no one is sharing their personal experiences with this situation, but as someone who is very well known in both the Skyline and Strasburg community, I feel like I should apologize directly. First of all, yes, I do live in Strasburg. It's my hometown. I was a Ram my whole life until I transferred to Skyline my freshman year. I have two little sisters who both go to Strasburg High School and another one who goes to Signal Knob. I know my sisters and even their friends looked up to me as an athlete, student, and just a person in general, which I know has changed a lot since the mistakes we have made. My father is Dr. Smith. He grew up in and graduated from Strasburg High School. I have friends there, but most importantly, family. My point here was not to tell you my life story. It was to, however, explain that yes, maybe soon this will all blow over, but as for me, forgetting all this will be much more difficult. I could never have hate Strasburg. It's where I came from. I actually was wanting to transfer back for my senior year, but I've always wanted my dad to hand me my diploma. Another thing about my dad, both of my parents are doing an amazing job raising my sisters and I. Parenting is hard. I know to the Facebook community right now, they are considered horrible parents for a situation that they had not a single thing to do with. I think knowing that most of this is getting blamed on them is the worst part for me, but I also know that everyone in the picture has apologized to my parents, and I know that they truly mean it. But at the end of the day, I respect both schools with massive amounts of emotion. Our actions are not excusable, but I just want to assure you I have learned, and I feel like I can say that we all have learned something out of this mistake. We all understand that this mistake should not have been made, and I can only hope that we are the only ones that act with as much misrepresentation as we did. I love Strasburg and I love Skyline, and I hope that throughout all of this, neither schools nor administration are shadowed or diminished. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Good evening. Many of you know who I am. I'm Alfred Carter. I'm the president of the NAACP for Warren County. Just to make you aware that over the last 2.5 years, I have monitored the activities of the school board. I've got some complaints. I've got very few compliments, and I've managed to kind of keep them under wraps because they did not rise to the level where action or swift action was necessary. But I will caution you as a board, please, please be mindful of your responsibility. When things are brought before you, do not let them lie. Do not let them be forgotten. Follow up, because I do hear what's happening when follow-up is not brought forward. Now, as I've stated, I've monitored you guys for almost 2 years, at least 2.5 years. And I'm going to tell you, some of the things I've heard, okay, we'll sit tight and see what the board does. No action. That's a pretty rough statement from me. No action. I don't need you to be visible. I don't need you to be broadcasting on social media. What I do need you to do is assume the responsibility and act on those things that you are handed to act on, whether it be favorable for the community or unfavorable, whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable. Those decisions are still going to have to be made. Now, I'm not going to go any further than that because I do have some sense of responsibility to some of the people. But please, by all means, if I can caution you to do one thing, follow through, answer the letters, answer the complaints. And if you can do that, I think we can tighten this school system down. There are things I've heard that I've totally not been comfortable with, but to give you an opportunity to address those situations, that's exactly what I have done. So, if you will, that's what I'm asking, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Crystal Klein. I'm a citizen here in Warren County. I'm getting ready to graduate my 8th child from Warren County Public Schools. I would like to commend the young ladies and gentlemen that spoke up here and showed a great deal of strength. Knowing the backlash that they have received in the last 4 or 5 days and seeing the tears of these children, the bullying of these children, the bullying of the administration, the bullying of the parents of these children. I'm disgusted by all of it. They're kids. And having 8 that I've had to raise, they all make mistakes. Me as a child, I've made mistakes. You as children, I'm sure, has made mistakes as well. And the treatment of these kids is horrible. Reposting that photo is disgusting. The paper, making it a huge story when it's not a story. I would say the big story of this whole thing is how these young kids have reacted to it in the face of adversity. I'm here to stand up for Dr. Smith and Mr. Lee. They're fantastic administrators. I've known Mr. Lee for as long as my kids have been in the high school, and never once has he ever said, no, I don't have time to talk to you. And I've talked to him several times about the trouble my kids have gotten into, and this isn't the first time that one of my kids have been in trouble. Things that I didn't agree with the schools. I've talked to Mr. Smith. I've been in his office. I think this has been handled very well with the school system. I appreciate the time that they have given us. I hope you take into consideration that these are good kids. These are kids that don't get in trouble. These are kids that are at the top of their class, and they made a mistake, and they're owning it. They're owning their truth here, and I just hope that we can move forward with this in a positive way. I'm happy with how the school board handled the consequences and discipline of the kids. I just hope that the real story could be the strength behind this. And I hope there's no repercussions for the parents of these kids, because I would have lost my job a long time ago if it was the actions of my children that held my job in their balance. And that's all I have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, before we move forward, I just want to say thank you to the students for showing up tonight and coming forward to apologize. Thank you for the parents for coming out and supporting your child and your student. I know it's been difficult on all of you all this week. I can't say anything more than what you all have already said. Yes, we all do make mistakes. I hope you can look back and say that was the worst thing I ever did, but I learned from it, and it helped me to move forward and be the person I am now. When I look at you out there, I don't see the students that were in that picture. I see a lot of bright, creative, energetic students, and I know that you can put this behind you and move forward. Apology accepted. Anyone else that would like to say anything? Okay. Consent agenda. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I make a motion the consent agenda be accepted as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, aye? Aye. Aye. Motion carries. Reports. Social emotional supports, mindfulness. Mr. Hirsch.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Superintendent, those of you know, last year we contracted with a mindfulness and yoga instructor to provide Tier 1, Tier 2 supports for students exhibiting anxiety and some emotional kinds of things. We studied the effects of that, the improvement of grades, the improvement of attendance, the improvement
Mr. Hirsch,
of
could you
behavior.
wait just a minute? I think people are leaving.
Oh,
A little distracting.
It wasn't because
you were talking.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm used to that reaction. Madam Chairman, Mr. Superintendent, what I came to ask you for today, or actually introduce today, is the social emotional behavioral coach that we're providing this year for all of our students in Warren County Public Schools. This program provides Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports under our VTSS model, providing some real support and mindfulness activities, giving students tools that are necessary to be successful. I won't go into the program. Our wonderful coach is here today to make a presentation about that. So I'd like to introduce Joanne Martin.
Thank you for having me. My name's Joanna Martin, and I am the new social emotional behavior coach in Warren County. It's a very exciting title because it's a new title and a new position. And basically what I do is help students learn to stop and think and make a good choice. That's kind of the goal. And basically we start with groups. So last year, I'm sorry, used to the clicker. Last year I started piloting a program. I was fortunate enough to have a progressive social services department that was open to trying something new. And I had hoped that maybe we could be able to get a couple classes going throughout the year. And we started with 3 classes. So basically, we were able to go into the classroom with particular children and meet and practice breathing techniques and stretching techniques. I might add that I was a classroom teacher and have had the experience of being in the classroom with a bunch of wiggly little bodies that I need to teach, with a lot of things going on outside of outside of school as well, and kind of started seeing that this was something that I felt needed to be addressed. I also, as a parent, started working with yoga and mindfulness just on my own at home, just to kind of deal with parenting issues. So what we did was we started with 3 classes at the beginning of the year, and I started in 3 elementary schools. The classes were ranging from about 7 to 12 students, and the schools kind of helped me choose those students. And basically, from those classes, we moved into all 3 elementary schools and 2 middle schools. But the classes just kind of expanded really rapidly. So the 3 classes quickly turned into 12 classes. And then we added an after-school class for faculty, providing them an opportunity to de-stress, but also to learn some techniques to use in the classroom. And there's been some research that kind of helps promote this, but our results basically show that the students were using the techniques in the classroom when they went back at times, not as much as we wanted to, but they could calm themselves down. So that was the goal. We wanted them to, before they would escalate, be able to stop, breathe, stretch a little bit, make a better choice. There was definitely an increased calm, more focus. And then the teachers started reporting that even the teachers that were in the sessions that I was teaching were starting to focus a little bit more on self-care, which of course then always trickles down to the students. And then they had hoped that there would be more involvement in the following year. So basically we found that there was a development of mind and body awareness. Of course, it helps physical fitness, and it helps self-regulation. So self-regulation is one of those things as a classroom teacher we're always trying to encourage. We want students to make good choices. We want them to be able to control their actions and help them learn how to do that on their own. So basically the positive effects were on behavior, well-being, academic performance, and then the social awareness and relationships. And these are kind of coming from CASEL, which is more of a nationwide, I guess, standards that are for social emotional learning. So some states have adopted the social emotional learning standards. So it's kind of a growing area in the world of education, and Warren County is actually kind of on the cutting edge with this, being able to bring it into our classrooms. So the teachers can also benefit, and I think this is one of the most important parts to really notice, because the teacher sets the tone in the classroom, and we know that there has been an increase of expectations placed upon the educational system in general, and teachers feel it. Teachers want to do the best they can for their students. They have a lot to share, but they also have a lot going on outside of school. The students have a lot going on outside of school, so that comes in with them. So this is starting to show, the information is starting to show that this is actually helping with the stress of the teachers. So currently this year, and now that we have adopted this program for this year, we are in all 5 elementary schools. We're doing 2 classes per school for now, and we're in both middle schools, and we're doing 2 classes in each middle school. We're providing an after-school class for the staff and faculty, so twice a week they can come when they feel like it, and they can come stretch and breathe. And then we've gone into the schools, and we've been kind of training the teachers a little bit on some techniques that they can use within the classroom. So what is mindfulness? We hear the word a lot right now. It's kind of this catchphrase. But really, the idea behind mindfulness is really paying attention to the present moment. And so I think the picture up here kind of shows how we all have these ideas floating around, lots of thoughts going on, all of the kind of plates that we're holding up in the air. And we want to feel like the cloud on the right. So there's ways that we can do that. So mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment, and you can focus on it in ways of kind of looking at your environment, looking at your bodily sensations, breathing, noticing thoughts, noticing feelings, but it also nurtures the positive states of mind and kind of the social emotional skills that we want our students to be leaving our school system with: compassion, kindness, empathy, patience, all of these things that we're trying to constantly instill in them while they're in our classroom. So basically, the school system is kind of a new frontier. Mindfulness started being used about 30 years ago. There's a lot of research that shows that this has been successful in the healthcare system and also in the mental health system. A man named John Kabat-Zinn, who you probably have heard of, started using mindfulness through MBSR, the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program. So there's a lot of research in that area. And then the third frontier, which is kind of where we are, is a growing area of research. But there's a lot of studies being happening. I know there's a professor at UVA that's studying mindfulness, studying using it with teachers. There's just a lot of different programs going on. So basically, it shows that it can help attention span, executive functioning, emotional regulation, back to the empathy, and then also can help things such as stress, depression, PTSD. So I thought one way to experience mindfulness would be to practice it. Sorry, I'm an ex-first grade teacher here, so I brought my toy, my tool, I should say. But basically, one of the things we do when I go into the classroom and work with the students is just talk about breath. Because a lot of times we don't know that we're breathing. We just assume that that's happening. But actually, the way that we breathe is really important, and that's going to affect how we're thinking, how our body is. So we just focus on breathing in through our nose, out through our mouth, and filling our lungs up. So we use the Hoberman sphere, our breathing ball, to kind of help the kids understand. And I use this with the middle schoolers as well because it's a nice concrete example. So basically what we want to do is inhale through our nose, breathing in, exhaling out. And we can just stop for a minute and maybe notice how we're feeling inside, maybe notice emotionally, physically, sensations we might be having. And then after a couple breaths, we'll check in. So breathing in, breathing out, inhaling, exhaling, breathing in, and breathing out. Okay. And this is also a really great way to kind of co-regulate with the kids. So if they come in and they're very anxious and they're upset by something that happened before they came to class, and you just start breathing with the ball, they start breathing with you. And a lot of the students have reported actually doing things like that outside of school. So even if they don't have the ball, we talk about how they can do a balloon breath and different types of tools that they can use, and using it when they need it. The goal is to get them to use it before they escalate and have other people trained so that they know how to encourage that. And we're working on that. So what mindfulness isn't, just to kind of keep in mind, is it's not a disciplinary tactic. It's not always calm and happy, so we can be mindful in the lunch line. We can be mindful in a noisy grocery store, but just kind of noticing what's going on. It's not going to fix everything, and it's not the absence of thought, and it's not really religious. So this is a secular activity. We're going to skip this. We've done enough. So one of the things I'll do is just offer them different ways to feel some mindfulness. And these are quick ways that we would do it. Say maybe a teacher could use it in the classroom, just a quick little blip in between transitions, just different ways to get the students and the teachers to kind of get back into their body and start noticing how they're feeling and be able to kind of focus on to what they're going to do next. These are tips that I would give them. Okay, so research is showing that a lot of trauma lands in our bodies. And so something that happens out in nature is that if an animal experiences some sort of a trauma, they'll shake it off, and they get it out of their system. And a friend of mine recently had a cat that was caught by a coyote, and the cat went limp. It went into freeze mode. They were able to get the cat out. The cat came back, started shaking immediately. Pupils were dilated. I'm sure the heart was racing. And then after a while, the cat was able to kind of come back to a neutral state. So this is normal, this is in nature, and this is what we want to have happen. But this doesn't always happen. And so sometimes that energy doesn't discharge. And if there's trauma over a long time with different amounts of trauma, sometimes that can land in the body. So basically, we can go into our sympathetic nervous system a little bit more than we would like, which does not always benefit us, especially when it comes to learning. And the goal is to get us into our parasympathetic, where we can rest and digest, be able to focus, be able to meet what is being expected of us. That's the psoas muscle. That's a really important muscle that connects the top and bottom parts of our bodies, and that's where a lot of trauma lands. And so when we think about the brain, and when I explain it to kids, I talk about different parts of our brain. And so we talk about the prefrontal cortex, which is really going to be the part of our brain that's going to make good decisions. This part of the brain is still forming. So that's why we see a lot of poor decisions being made by young kids. And then we have the hippocampus, which is kind of like the memories, the scrapbook that's going to kind of like refer back to things. And then the amygdala, which is kind of like the guard. And the amygdala is going to kind of decide how they're going to react. And so we talk about flipping our lid. So if we're thinking about our fist being basically our brain, we're going to have our brainstem down here, and then we're going to have this part of our hand kind of being the amygdala and the hippocampus. And the top part would be the prefrontal cortex. So this is kind of the limbic system. And when kids are getting upset, they get stuck in here. So we call it their downstairs brain. They get stuck down here. They can't come up to the prefrontal cortex. So any kind of emotion, they're going to be here, and they're not going to be thinking clearly, what we would say thinking clearly, but they're not going to be able to really be in touch with other people and making good choices. So what we do a little bit is talk about our brains and talk about where we are in our brains and how to get up to that prefrontal cortex so that we're making good choices. So when we're in that bottom part of our brain, we're going to be in that fight or flight mode like an animal. So why yoga? So the yoga helps with the stretching. It helps release some of that energy that is kind of trapped. Certainly with all kids, they have a lot of energy and they like to move. And so this gives them an opportunity to release some of that energy. But it also connects us with our own bodies so that we actually know where we are in space and connects us to other people. When we start seeing that we're doing well with something, we feel good, and then we want to try something harder. So it connects the brain, the body, and the breath. These are options that we give the teachers to use of little things they can do in the classroom in between transitions, ways to kind of get some of the wiggles out and get the stress out. And then these are just opportunities that you could use, perhaps, if you would like to practice mindfulness. So transitions, just any time that you can stop and notice and be in the present. So the one thing we really encourage with teachers in the classroom is being consistent. So picking one little thing, not a lot, and just practicing a little bit of that throughout the year, something that the kids know. So as long as they know it, then when they actually need it and they start getting back down to that bottom part of their brain, the downstairs part of their brain, they've formed that connection and that habit so that there's already a pathway up to be able to make the better choice. So, yes. And I think that's, yeah, well, I'll stop you there. I could go on and on. I'm sorry for taking up so much time. But it's a wonderful program, and as a parent of children in the county, I'm just so grateful to the county to be open to trying these different options with our students. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. How do you choose the classrooms that you're going to?
Well, so right now we're focusing on the certain students that are exhibiting certain behaviors, so more internal and external. And then we have gone into some classrooms, and we're starting to work into focusing on like a school right now that we're kind of practicing with, and then going in and teaching the lesson to the students and having the teachers watch. So the teachers get a lot out of it. They really benefit greatly from practicing it. Great, thank you.
If I give you my, my phone number, would you call me the day that you get Mr. Riley and Mr. Smith to do yoga?
Well, I have already gotten Mr. Riley is one of my best students. Really? Seriously.
You
And
know
he's
how to
great.
breathe, my man.
He really is. He was at almost every class last year. So,
And where do
thank
you, where do you get those balls?
these are online.
Just online?
Yeah, and they're great, yeah. They're really great because you can even just be talking to a student and just kind of doing this, or an adult. They just kind of come back to where you are and calm down. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
There is still two. Thank you.
Superintendent report, Mr. Drescher.
Thank you. I will admit to attempting to use mindfulness the last few days, breathing. Just some facts for you on the beginning of the school year. September 30th, excuse me, is the date that we all look at for counting how many students we have in school, because that is the first time that the state actually collects that data to help us with our budget. So we have 5,172 students in our schools. I will tell you that is about 100 students less than what we anticipated. And I do not have a good answer as to why that is. We have 418 homeschool students, and we have 208 religious exemption students. So those are not much different than in years past, but it's been around that same number. The accreditation scores have come out from the state, and I'm very proud to say that 8 of our 9 schools have accreditation status. 1 school has accreditation with conditions, and that is because 3 subgroups in reading and 1 subgroup in math needs some additional support and work. And since summer, since July, we have been working on a school plan. I'll be working on that school plan. There's going to be some state support that school is going to receive as well, which we're looking forward to, and that also includes some additional funding. So we're looking forward to that happening as well. You'll remember that we were involved in the Virginia tiered system of supports the last several years. It's we've adopted this process to help us have a process as we go about selecting effective evidence-based practices that impact attendance, behavior, and instruction. And you've heard about these, but I'll just remind all of us, the next 2 that we're looking at for this year is multiple opportunities to respond, which helps our classrooms become more student-friendly. If students are involved in what's going on in the lesson multiple times throughout the lesson, they do better. And the other one is behavior-specific praise. Seems simple, but it's evidence-based that if you praise somebody for something specifically that they did that you like, they tend to do that action more. So we're trying to help our teachers utilize behavior-specific praise on a regular basis. October is Bullying Prevention Month. It is every year. We have a number of programs that we use all the time to help us with combat bullying that goes on. There is no doubt we have work to do, and we take it seriously. And I appreciate the comments this evening that we do need further action, and I can tell you that that's what we're continuing trying to work on. The final on this type of report is the RFP has gone out to the architects for proposal for the AS Roads renovation. Mrs. Shepherd worked on that. We got our comments back from the attorney, and so it's out, should be, I guess, in the paper here pretty soon, this weekend. Thank you. I do need to make a comment about the event of last Friday and what we just heard our students come in here to say. And I would just say just a couple of things, and I think we're on the same page here. I think of each of us, if we were willing, we could probably recall a time when we've done something or said something unkind, inappropriate, or maybe just kind of stupid. It just didn't get posted on social media. And because it wasn't, often it's forgotten. I can't tell you how many people have told me in the last 5 days how blessed we are as an older generation, some of us are older than others, that we're blessed that social media wasn't around when we were in high school. And I would agree. I'm glad it wasn't. Like the dozens of disciplinary issues that our schools deal with every day, and we do a good job at it. We address it appropriately with the intent being for our students to learn from their transgressions. And remember, the root of discipline is to disciple or teach. And the true intent of discipline is to teach. And that has been the intent this whole time. I don't know about you, but some of my biggest lessons of life have been because of the mistakes I've made. And these students are no different than each of us, whether we're school board members, whether we're principals, or whether we're superintendents. We learn. I was really glad to see the students here this evening. No one made them do this. I did know they were coming. I believe they understand the impact, not only what it's had on themselves, but everybody around them. Standing up and taking responsibility is a wonderful lesson to learn, whether we want it or not. And that's part of the process. And I'm glad you said that you accepted their apology, Mrs. Bauer, because I, for one, accept their apology as well. And I thank them for doing that. Yep.
School board reports. Mr. Williams?
Yes. After all, everything that's going on and listening to the comments made me think about something I was handed years ago. And it says, and I've been carrying my wallet, you can see it's broke off and kind of rough shape. It says, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And then fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And I think as a society, that's what we need to think of. Is it good for everybody involved? Is the outcome based on not what an individual wants, but collectively we all want and or need? So just leave you with that, something to think about. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rosen?
It's really interesting because it's also used in Rotary International clubs, a four-way test. And it opened my eyes a little bit when my wife and I have two sons that are out of the house and have babies and all that now. But at the time, each one of them had called me on separate occasions and said, what's that thing that y'all recite at Rotary Club? Well, it's a four-way test. Oh, great. And explain that to me. Then he called back a few weeks later and said, hey, that really helped me with this situation that he in his job, and took care of it. Both boys used it, and it is. I think it's one of the most important tenets of trying to do things correctly. And compliments to Greg. We all know we're not perfect, and we all know that we can learn by every experience, but I think it's more important to learn and understand all of the ramifications and all the information before you just make a quick decision and say, oh, this is the way it is. I think there's too much of that in this world going on now. We're going to do it this way, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wells?
I just, Rotary, I just thought of a quote that somebody had a while back with regard to this situation, that we all have a chapter in our life that nobody wants to stand up in front of the class and read. And as you said, if that's the worst thing, hopefully they will be able to say that's the worst thing they've ever done. I think they're sincere, and we're seeing too much of that type of thing, in all of society. And I think the school system is doing a great job of trying to take the edge off of that and You know, we talk about bullying, we talk about being thankful and appreciative and talking to one another and everything, and that goes to your point, Mr. Carter. You're absolutely correct. There is no place in the school system for racism in any way, shape, or form. I would hope that even though Charlottesville is not too far away from us, that it's 1,000 miles away in this community's thought process. And so I encourage you and others to continue to remind us if we need to be reminded, and to act if we need to act.
Thank you. Mrs. McKeithron?
I'm to appreciate the students coming. Took a lot of courage to stand up before us and admit they had not made the best choices. I've always defended Warren County, as I will continue to defend Warren County. If anybody has anything to say, I will stand up. I mean, it's a great place to be. And as we said, we don't do everything right, but we're definitely trying our best. And I think they're gonna have to deal with it, and I just hope that they're not too hard on themselves. And like Ms. Bauer said, you know, we accept their apology. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And I believe I already addressed the incident. That's all. Action agenda. Appointment of 2018-2019 Special Education Advisory Committee. Mr. Hirsch.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Superintendent, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to recognize the chairman of our Special Education Advisory Committee, Ms. Lori Adams. She'd like to want to come up here with us?
If you insist.
Thank you, Lori. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. And I think by us presenting to you the SEAC, the members for next year, it just illustrates the collaboration that we've had over the years and the positive working relationship that SEAC and the school division has had. But in accordance with the IDEA, or the Individual with Disabilities Act, an advisory committee is established to advise the superintendent and the school board of the needs of students with disabilities in the county. And each year we recruit members, and it ebbs and flows, and we get additional members, and sometimes members move or their students graduate. But we do have a list in your packets of the people that we would like to appoint to the Special Education Advisory Committee next year. We're hoping, because we do a big recruiting push in the fall, we hope to get a couple more, and our bylaws say that we can, add some names to this until October 30th. So we're hoping to come before you, hopefully by the end of the month, and get a couple more added. But attached is your list, and if you have any questions, I could answer.
Anyone?
I
No?
think you answered one for me in an email a while back. I think you said one of these members is connected with the Ward Fairfax transition program as well.
Correct. Our teacher member is Mr. Miller.
But, yeah,
Yep.
so we've got the whole gamut
Correct.
at least represented. I don't want to say covered, but we've got it represented. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Yeah. Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the members listed for the 2018-2019 school year to serve on the Special Education Advisory Committee
Second.
with gratitude.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Acceptance of Cargill Incorporated turkey donation. Mr. Hirsch.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, it's the third year going. Our partnership with Cargill Meats, who donates turkeys for students that are experiencing homelessness or transition, and students that are at risk across our division. We get the opportunity to go down and pick those up and give them to those families. And it's been very well received over the past few years, and we're excited to do it again this year. I just want to ask your permission.
Is this the same number that was donated last year?
Actually, no, they asked if we wanted more. So the number is, it started at 80 and it went to 100 last year, and they gave us 120 this year. So I think we're we're going to run out some of the people, so I think we're going to give some to each school for the guidance offices to distribute to families that need it as well.
Now, these are not cooked.
No, they're frozen, and we're working with food service. They have a walk-in over at the 15th Street site, and we'll go down and pick them up, and we'll freeze all 120 until right before the Thanksgiving break, and then we'll send them home with the families.
Great.
Pretty neat.
That's nice. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the donation of 120 turkeys to support at-risk Warren County students be, by Cargill Incorporated, be accepted with gratitude.
Second.
All those in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. Emergency purchase of chiller package for LFK. Mr. Riley.
Good evening. How you folks doing?
Doing good?
I'm here on a not too pleasant circumstances, but you have information that I presented to you about a chiller failure at LFK. Piece of equipment was 30 years old and we can't get parts for it, and it's just gone. It's done. So I'm sure you have plenty of questions, and I hope I can answer all of them.
We currently are renting.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
I was at LFK doing a site visit and saw them delivering that big
Yes.
unit. When does that expire?
We have, it's rented for 1 month. The rental is up on the 17th. So we have to have it gone by the 17th or pay another month's rent.
And it's
Which
pretty
is-
expensive.
Yeah, it's $14,000 a month. The second month is $12,000.
Yeah.
But the only alternative we had was, move half the school somewhere else. Because these 80-degree days and the windows don't open, and there's no way to get, chilled water into the units without it. So we really were backed into a corner with this thing.
And 5 months of rental will pay for the new unit.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am, it would. So I've got it set up. We were very fortunate, Riddleberger Brothers, they do our chiller service. They start them up in the summer and shut them down in the winter, and they make one inspection during the interim. And when it failed, they were at another school, and I asked them would they please go over and take a look at it real quick, and they determined, that it wasn't salvageable. So we started, an emergency process of trying to find something to do so we wouldn't have to shut the school down. And they helped me. They hooked me up with Bolin, who had rental equipment available. They went online and found a chiller package that is just coming off the assembly line in 2 weeks. But the thing was, you had to claim it. If it goes on the open market, once those things hit the open market, they're gone. The rental companies buy them up fast as they make them, because you can see it's a very lucrative market to rent these things. So if everything works out, I'll have the rental unit gone Monday or Tuesday, and the new unit will arrive on the 19th, and they're prepared. Well, they'll come in on the 18th and start tearing out the old chiller package and getting it out of the way. And on the 19th, they'll start setting the new one, and if they have to, they'll work into the weekend to get it done. So we may have a day or two, hopefully if it's not in 90-degree days. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable in the school, but there's really no other way to do it.
Okay.
Unless we did it on the weekend, I guess we could, but then that would cost us more money. But. So that's basically what happened in a nutshell.
Is there any, I guess you could say, generational difference? Do we gain any efficiency with this new unit?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. This unit, it's a carrier unit. The one we had was a train. The tonnage on it is the same, so the output will be the same. But it's, more energy efficient. It's programmable. We can put it on our building automation system. It's a good machine. Should carry that school for many years. Even when you renovate LFK, that chiller will still be viable.
Any questions or discussion?
You said it was Riddleberger?
Riddleberger Brothers, yes, sir.
That's-
Did you say there was a second? Is this isn't the only unit for that school, is it?
No, there's two different cooling plants up there.
Okay,
Yeah,
what's
the school's
the-
like split right half in two.
Yeah, what's the potential lifespan on the other one? Are we gonna have to start
The other
thinking
chiller
in terms?
package I put in there in 2001 or two. It had a water-cooled cooling tower. You know, it's a two-pipe system up there. That school really was designed poorly because you either have chilled water or hot water. You can't have both at the same time. So if you're hot and you're cold, you're going to be hot. You know, it's just you have to switch it every time. You know, from chilled water to hot water. Start the boilers, turn them off. Start the chiller, turn it off. You know, it's just very bad system.
Pick the right day to do it.
Yeah. Hopefully, when you renovate, you know, we can do a little bit better with that. But it works. You know, it keeps the building comfortable. When it was designed, you know, humidity and stuff of that nature wasn't considered, you know, a big deal like it is today. But we're keeping it going, doing what we can for you.
A motion?
Yeah. Madam Chairman, I move that this purchase be approved as presented in the not-to-exceed amount of $73,271 for the purchase and installation of the new carrier chiller package.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Yep.
Approval of memorandum of agreement between Warren County and Warren County School Board for maintenance of vehicles. Mrs. Shepherd.
Thank you. Good evening. On June 2nd, 2010, the County of Warren and Warren County Public Schools entered into an agreement for the School Board Transportation Department to provide maintenance for county vehicles. This agreement has worked well for both the County of Warren and the school system. The Transportation Department will provide routine vehicle maintenance service for all county vehicles, excluding fire engines. The Transportation Department shall provide routine vehicle maintenance service for ambulances owned by either the county or independent volunteer fire companies located in Warren County. The Transportation Department agrees to use standard industry acceptable parts in providing such repairs and maintenance services. The recommendation is to renew this agreement for the maintenance of the county vehicles. The new agreement sets the labor rate at $65 per hour. The county has agreed the Warren County Public Schools Transportation Department will receive a minimum of $75,000 in labor reimbursement for each year, and the county will reimburse the Transportation Department for parts purchased for the maintenance of the county's vehicles. I'll be happy to answer any question. Aaron Mitchell is here as well to answer any questions that I may not be able to.
Basically, just a renewal of the agreement we've had for several years, right?
The only difference is we raised the rate, our labor rate, from $60 to $65.
That doesn't put too much stress on our employees trying to maintain our fleet and the additional, it's all working out well? Okay.
It is working well.
Okay, well, good.
I guess the long-term benefit too is they always give us their old vehicles. If we know we've maintained them real well, we're glad to accept them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I move approval be given for the chair of the school board to sign the memorandum of agreement between Warren County and Warren County School Board for maintenance of vehicles.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shepherd. Is there any further business? We need a motion to go in.
Still going in?
We need a motion to go into closed session.
All right. This motion is made that this open public meeting of the Warren County School Board become a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711. The school board desires to discuss the following matter in a closed meeting. Section 2.2-3711A2, discussion or consideration of admission or disciplinary matters or any other matters that would involve the disclosure of information contained in a scholastic record concerning any student in Warren County Public Schools, specifically a student discipline matter.
Second.
Mr. Ballantyne, please call roll.
Mrs. McEthron?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Rosen?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries. We are now in closed session.